Welcome. I'm your host, Sherry H., and this is Care in Memory Shadow. Today's topic is grief layered with love, exhaustion, and hindsight. This is a place where grief is met with patience and care. Love is not questioned, and exhaustion is understood. Where hindsight doesn't come with blame, but with reflection and truth. Here, we talk about what it means to love deeply while letting go, to care without certainty, and to survive moments that change us forever. Grief does not begin at death. It begins much earlier, often disguised as love. It begins in the quiet devotion of showing up and learning medications' names you never wanted to know, in rearranging life around appointments, treatments, and unpredictable days. Love convinces you that this is what strength looks like. Love tells you that if you just try harder, stay longer, and ask fewer questions, everything will be okay. At first, love feels powerful, purposeful. You believe you're doing what love requires, standing firm, advocating, believing. You trust the systems meant to help. You trust the words spoken by professionals with confidence and credentials. You trust because you have no reason not to. Love makes you hopeful. Hope makes you compliant. You don't yet recognize the early signs, the moments where something feels off, the rushed explanations, the side effects brushed aside, the decisions made quickly because this is standard. You tell yourself this is how it works. Tell yourself love means trust. And so you love deeply, fully, without question, carrying on. You don't know yet that love, when left alone without rest or clarity, can quietly carry you towards exhaustion. It hides behind responsibility, behind just one more thing, behind the belief that stopping would mean failing. Exhaustion looks like resilience at first. It feels like determination, but slowly your body begins to whisper what your mind refuses to hear. Sleep becomes shallow. Meals become optional. Days blur together. You forget what it feels like to exhale fully. You become alert even in rest, bracing for the next call, the next change, the next emergency. Exhaustion isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's the constant calculation. Am I doing enough? Did I miss something? Should I push harder? You carry guilt for being tired and shame for needing help. You are praised for your strength, yet no one notices how thin you become, how stretched you are. Exhaustion becomes your baseline, and you forget there was ever another way to live. So you keep going because love doesn't know how to quit, and exhaustion rarely asks permission. This is a grief that exists before loss is final. It lives in watching someone change, in seeing moments disappear, in realizing that the person you love is still here, but not, at least, not the same. This grief has no ceremony, no acknowledgement, no permission to be named. You mourn quietly. You grieve possibilities, futures, conversations you won't get to have the same way again. You grieve the life that was interrupted. And yet, you are still required to function, to decide, to agree, to sign forms, to listen, to hope again and again, even when hope feels reckless. This grief is lonely because it confuses people. They see life, you feel lost. They say be grateful while your heart fractures in silence. You begin to understand that grief is not just about death. It is about change that cannot be reversed. And still you love. Still you show up. Because grief and love often walk hand in hand, long before the end. There's always a moment. Sometimes it's loud, a call, a collapse, a final breath. Sometimes it's quiet, a sentence spoken gently, a look exchanged, a realization that shapes heavily in your chest. This is the moment when love, exhaustion, and grief collide. Time feels distorted. Your body remembers details your mind tries to block. Words echo. You replay decisions. You question everything. What did I miss? What should I have asked? Why didn't I push harder or rest sooner? This is where hindsight is born, not as wisdom, but as pain. The world expects immediate acceptance. You were told what comes next, arrangements, paperwork, next steps. No one asks how you are surviving, the weight of what just happened. You leave this moment changed forever because grief does not end when love ends. It deepens. Hindsight is cruel before it is kind. It shows you moments with clarity you did not have then. It revealed gaps, places where information were missing, where choices were rushed, where exhaustion clouded judgment. You revisit conversations, you analyze tones, you wonder if different questions would have led to different outcomes. Hindsight convinces you that you should have known more, done more, been more. But hindsight forgets some crucial things. You were doing the best you could in that moment, caring more than you realized and learning as you went. You were surviving. You were operating with what you had, with love, limited information, and a body running on fumes. You were navigating systems that were not designed for the vulnerable, the tired, or the grieving. Slowly, if you allow it, hindsight softens. It becomes less about blame and more about understanding. It begins to teach instead of punish. You start to see the truth. You did not fail. You endured. Grief does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes quieter in some places and louder in others. It shows up unexpectedly in memories, in songs, in silence. But love remains. Love is what stays. You begin to carry what you've learned, not as regret, but as responsibility. You speak when you once stayed silent. You ask questions. You rest when you once pushed. You honor exhaustion as a warning, not a weakness. You understand now that love must be supported by clarity, that caregiving requires community, that grief deserves space, not timelines. This is not about moving on. It's about moving forward with love, with trust, with the knowledge earned through pain. Grief layered with love exhaustion, and hindsight does not break you. It reshapes you. And in that reshaping, something sacred remains, a deeper compassion, a sharper awareness, and a love that never truly leaves. But it also leaves behind a knowing, one earned only through sleepless nights, unanswered questions, and the quiet fear of wondering if more could have been done. Caregiving is often framed as an act of devotion, yet rarely as a place of vulnerability. Behind the brave faces are bodies running on empty, minds clouded by fatigue, and hearts carrying the weight of impossible decisions. There are hidden dangers no one warns you about. How exhaustion dulls instinct, how trust and authority can silence intuition, how love can make you endure what should never be normalized, how advocacy requires strength you may not have been given time to build. Caregivers are not just helpers, they are witnesses. They see the slow changes others dismiss. They notice when something feels off before charts do. And when their voices are ignored, the cost can be devastating. Out of grief comes purpose. Out of love comes responsibility. And out of hindsight comes a voice, one that speaks not from blame, but from experience. A voice that says, listen to caregivers. Question those things that doesn't make sense. Rest is not weakness, and no one should have to carry this alone, because caregiving doesn't end when the journey does. It transforms into testimony, education, into protection for those who will walk this path next. And that too is love, still working, still teaching, still present. If you're caring for someone and finding yourself uncertain, tired, or questioning, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're learning, and learning can be painful, yet necessary. Learning is the first step toward better questions and better care. As we close today's episode, remember this. There is no perfect way to grieve, no flawless way to care, and no single answer to the questions that weigh on your heart. What matters is that you are present, that you are asking, learning, and showing up, even when it's hard. Each moment of attention, love, and reflection shapes the journey, not just for those you care for, but for yourself as well. So take a breath, give yourself grace, and know that in this space, your experiences are seen, your questions are valid, and your voice matters. This is Care in Memory Shadow. Thank you for listening to Grief Layered with Love, Exhaustion, and Hindsight. I hope today's conversation leaves you a little more understood, a little more prepared, and a little less alone. Until next time, take care of yourself and those you love.